Welcome back to another edition of the Knight Report podcast. Joining me once again, this is Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is Richie Schneiderite and Chris Nalwasky. Guys, we went down into Philly this weekend, got a huge commanding win. We squeaked by against Temple 16-14 in one of the ugliest games I can remember in recent history for Rutgers. But a win is a win. We are 3-0 for the second time in the past two seasons. But first, this podcast is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your go-to resource for all your sports betting needs. You can find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts.
And we're also sponsored by Adam Goldman. He's the franchise coach, if you guys don't know about him. Basically, if you're just kind of trying to change your career up a little bit and trying to diversify, do something different overall, and you're just tired of sitting in that cubicle all day, every day, hit up Adam Goldman. He's been doing this for 10 plus years. Jersey guy through and through. Knight Report member, Scarlet Knights fan. He kind of just uses his expertise to help others just kind of find their new age American dream. If you're interested in changing careers or changing something up in your life, give him a call, 844-800-3726, or you can also find him at franchisecoach.net.
All right, guys. The main talking point on the boards and kind of all throughout Rutgers Twitter the last 24 hours is the offense coming out of this game. What did you guys see from the offense, and do we have any idea of what our personnel might be looking like for Iowa Saturday?
You guys saw offense? Because I didn't see any. I couldn't find any on Saturday. No, there was a couple plays here and there that weren't awful, but for the most part, I mean, it's just running it up the gut. That's basically Rutgers' nitty-gritty style. I know Shiano's done this in the past, and then once you go down to one quarterback, I think you just got even more conservative. So it's kind of just all right, we're just gonna ground and pound, and that's basically the entire offense. From 75% of the game, 60% of the game, something like that. Mm-hmm. They took a couple chances on throws, but they just, if you rewatch it, Evan Simon on his couple of his throws, actually probably more than a couple, he just wasn't accurate whatsoever.
Yep.
So I mean, they squeaked by. They got a win. A win's a win, like you said, at the end of the day, but just not pretty overall from the offense.
Yeah, I think Rutgers just really wanted to try and just escape the game with the win. I think they're very conservative. Like you said, they ran the ball a lot. I think someone made the stat 85% or 80% on first. Almost every first down play was a run. They didn't really mix it up at all or anything. Obviously, we saw Gavin Wimsatt go down early in the game. He's a game time decision right now. Same thing with Noah Vedral, who hasn't played yet this season. But yeah, so right now, really only Evan Simon's the healthy scholarship quarterback heading into next week, and as it stands right now, his backup is one of the walk-ons. I think we have an idea who the walk-on would be, but Shiano didn't want to kind of reveal that. I guess it's a walk-on. I don't really know how much I was gonna really care about that, who the backup is, but I think just Rutgers really just wanted to escape the game with the win, and I guess they did whatever it took to get the win. The defense played well, but the offense is gonna have to show more as the season goes. The season progresses.
Yeah, we ran a run play on 19 of our 21 first downs on Saturday, which is over 90%. In the first half, especially, it was really bad. So on first half first downs, we averaged 2.4 yards per play. So Evan was just behind in the count basically every time he was stepping up, because he's facing a 2nd and 7, 2nd and 8 on every play, and then we most of the time ran on for second down as well. So we're just telegraphing where we're going on offense, and this felt like a game everybody mailed in. From the coaching staff, just play it conservative, play it down the middle. Don't use the driver, just use the wedge. We'll keep it. We'll just shoot for par the entire game. And it showed. Honestly, if Shaquan Loyal doesn't pick that ball off, we probably lose this game. But at the same time, if Robert Longerbeam catches that first interception, first play of the game, is this game, a blowout because Temple's playing from behind the whole time. So it's kind of like a what if, but at the same time, we just really, like, from top to the bottom, didn't feel like we showed up on Saturday, and it showed.
Yeah, I know. Chiano said early in the week, and someone asked him about, the night game against Iowa coming up, and obviously the whole coach speak thing. Hey, we're not going to look past Temple, but it seems like maybe they did. I mean, maybe it feels like they didn't try their best. Like, I hate to say that, but I feel like they didn't go all out, and they show. I mean, I think they didn't want to show anything or on offense because Iowa has such a good a good defense coming up. Maybe they didn't want to show other cards, but they definitely didn't seem like they went all out in this one.
Yeah, you don't have to show your entire playbook, but at the same time, you can't be almost losing the fucking Temple, a first-year head coach at Temple who has 6 new starters on defense alone.
Yeah.
The offense as a whole is just not. It's not operating at full strength. I know, obviously, there's a lot of injuries here and there, quarterback especially. But 2 passes this weekend went over 10 yards. It's disgusting. There's no other way to put it. Cruikshank's your leading receiver. He had 5 receptions for a total of 18 yards. All these catches are behind the line of scrimmage. I know, sometimes some of these bubbles and screens and all that stuff will work, but you can't depend on these guys to just take it 20 yards down the field. You got to throw it down the field a little bit, and it's not like Evan Simon can't do that. Is he the most accurate in the world? No, but I also think he's being hindered a little bit because one interception, they're going to pull him for the other guy, or vice versa, and I think that kind of hurts both quarterbacks' confidence too. Now, him being the only quarterback possibly this weekend, maybe his confidence goes up a little bit. Maybe takes a couple more risks because it's go ahead, I dare you to put in Gavin Rupp or Albert Ricky. Not going to, but or maybe Johnny Langan gets the start for all we know.
Well, I was going to say if for some reason we're down Simon in the game as well, I just see them converting to a Josh Youngblood, Johnny Langan duo at quarterback, and maybe we pass the ball 3 or 4 times all game.
You might get lucky, and then the fans might get to see their OC in the press box if that's the case, because it might just be hey, Nuns, you know what you're doing with him, so go ahead. Have fun.
Yeah, I mean, the offense that worked against Temple was Johnny Langan run the ball, whether it was, first drive, maybe first quarter, maybe the second drive, he had the one long run, and then he kind of, ran out the clock late in the fourth quarter, so I mean, John Langan was really the offense, and I could totally see him starting again against Iowa, just the season opener.
Yeah, he also put the ball on the turf, though, so I'm sure he's getting an earful for that, too.
Thankfully,
Sean Ryan just happened to be right there.
Yeah, and then they did trust him late in the fourth quarter, so I think they kind of moved past that. But yeah, that was kind of almost a big blow there early if Sean Ryan didn't fall on that.
I mean, going back to the offense a little bit, Army has more passing yards than Rutgers this year. It's bad.
You mean the team that does a triple option as its offense?
That's a stat right there.
That's a stat.
Yeah. Yikes.
Is Army good this year?
I don't even know, to be honest. They're 1-2, so no.
Yeah, never mind.
They lost to UTSA in overtime and Coastal Carolina by 10.
Yeah,
but no, I mean, something's got to change with his offense. I know you can't be. I know everyone's talking about how he's getting paid $1 million, he's got to do better. I agree with that part, but then there's other sides of the argument where people are like, yeah, but then what are we going to do? Pay people $400, $500K a year again? And I'm like, some of those $400, $500K people might be better, to be honest. Not saying his job's on the line, but it's inching a little closer towards that. He needs to Sean Gleason needs to pick it up, and this offense has to do something different at least.
You saw creative plays in the first game against Boston College. They used Aaron Cruikshank in a variety of ways, and then that kind of didn't happen at all on Saturday. So, I mean, I seem like going back to everything being predictable. It feels like every run was the same exact play over and over and over. The running back lined up on the right side of the quarterback and they just ran up the middle. And the offensive line, didn't get any push. I think if you look at the Pro Football Focus grades, 4 out of the 5 starters are in the bottom 5 in terms of the offensive passing, in terms of the offensive grades. So the offensive line obviously didn't help at all either.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't all bad on Saturday. I feel like we're painting a pretty ugly picture. The defense did hold up pretty well against Temple. It didn't result in any sack numbers, but they did put a lot of pressure on Warner. That directly led to the interception return for a touchdown. The great play by Shaquan Moyer, tipping that up to himself and returning it. The run defense continued to be awesome. They held Temple to just 49 yards on the ground on 30 carries, and Rutgers is number 2 right now in yards per carry allowed in the FBS out of 131 squads. So it does bode well moving forward because Iowa's also not a great team on the ground, and they had a breakout performance from their backup against a really bad Nevada team this past weekend. But that game, I feel like you could just kind of throw it out for Iowa because they had 4 hours of lightning delays. The game started at 6 p.m. local time and ended at almost 2 a.m. local time. So I feel like that one's just a total outlier. But what other positives did you guys see coming out of this one?
I think Max Melton did pretty good. He played pretty solid overall. I don't want to say he's back necessarily because it is a shitty Temple team, but he played really good. Deion Jennings looked pretty solid as a linebacker. The linebacker core as a whole kind of looked pretty good. No real complaints there. D-line, like you said, Aaron Lewis looked solid. Interestingly enough, Ifeanyi Maije got the start over Maya Hanatu. Was that probably because it was Temple? I would assume so, because either way they rotate in and out about equal snaps for the most part. But it was interesting to see him out there instead of Mayan. Yeah, but I guess they didn't, like you said, it didn't result in sacks. But overall, I guess the defense played pretty solid.
Yeah, I thought the defense played well. I wrote a piece about the defense after the game. I talked to Max Melton, who you talked about already. Aaron Lewis had a really good game. Aaron Lewis probably had his best game since being at Rutgers. He had, his most tackles since being at Rutgers. So, I think he also forced a fumble as well. So, he had a really good game. Playing close to home. Same thing with Max Melton. They're both from South Jersey, so I'm sure they wanted to show out for their kind of. I'm sure they both had a lot of families and friends come up a little bit for the game. I guess Philly feels a little north of where they're from, but yeah. So yeah, both of those guys played well. I thought one thing, speaking about the defense, that the middle of the field was open a lot for the Temple offense. Feels like they had a lot of completions in the middle of the field. E.J. Warner was throwing off his back foot a lot of the game, but they were still completing passes. He didn't really have really good arm strength either, but somehow they still were able to complete passes. If you play a better quarterback next time, maybe you'll hit the receivers in stride and obviously cause more problems than the Owls were able to.
Yeah, and that's kind of something we saw coming into the game. Obviously he only played a half against Lafayette, but he was still he was under pressure against Lafayette, and he was able to, absorb hits and make accurate passes, even though he is pretty short. I think the guy Kyle last week said he was probably only 5'10", freshman quarterback. He was making plays, and Rutgers had a hard time stopping them, especially over the field, like you said, and that kind of raises the question, is it a scheme problem? Is it the linebackers who are poor in coverage? Is it the safeties who are poor in coverage? I noticed, especially on the late long touchdown, Igbenusin just totally read the play wrong. He cut inside, and the tight end literally just went right behind him and scored. So I think there's a lot of questions there. Overall, I'm pretty happy with where the defense is at, but there's obviously still some problems back in the back seven.
Yeah, Shiano kind of mentioned it today. There's still a lot of youth on this team. These guys aren't experienced for the most part. Maybe a couple of the defensive backs you can argue. Obviously, Avery Young's been there for 5,000 snaps at this point. But the rest of them are all pretty new. The linebacker core has a total of, going into the season, had a total of 4 starts, 5 starts, maybe 6. Tops.
Yeah, some of that 4 maybe. Yeah.
D-line's pretty much all new. I know obviously Maije and Hanatun have been around the block a little bit, but for the most part, they're all relatively new guys at these positions. So and that also goes for the offense as well, and that kind of explains the penalties kind of as well. It's all hand in hand with each other, and I know they're not the worst penalized team in the country, but they're not the best either.
They're damn near the bottom for sure. Yeah. Which is totally uncharacteristic of a Greg Schiano led team. I think he said that we strive to be a disciplined team, but you are kind of what your stats tell you are. And right now, they are one of the most undisciplined teams in college football. I think they're 113th out of 131 teams in penalties per game.
I think
they're
that's right.
109th in penalty yardage too. So they're basically averaging 8 penalties a game for 75 yards roughly. So you're just shooting yourself in the foot time after time, and it's been a lot of offensive line problems too. It's been a lot of holding. It's been a lot of late games. It's been a lot of false starts, and that's the kind of stuff I guess you get better at as you get more starts under your belt, especially as a unit, because the offensive line works in cohesion. But we can't be committing this many mistakes during Big Ten play. Like, we have a big game coming up this weekend. We're underdogs at home, but if we commit 8 penalties against Iowa, it's going to be really tough to overcome that.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty spot on. There's really nothing else to say there. You can't afford to commit anything against this Iowa team. They have a stout defense. Your offense is struggling as is, so those two combinations are just it's going to be interesting. Let's just say this game is weird because the only team that has less yards on offense this year in the Big Ten is Iowa. So this is just a weird matchup. Like, even the over-unders, I think, is what, 35?
Yeah, they're 6-point favorites on a game that has a total under 36. So
yeah, it's going to be such a weird game, I feel like.
Yeah. Iowa. Looking at the numbers for Iowa, they're number 2 scoring defense, number 2 red zone defense, number 4 total defense, number 6 in passing efficiency defense, number 10 in least number of first downs allowed, number 15 in rushing defense, and number 59 in third down defense. So, just like all across the board, they're a stout defense, and just going back to the offense, Rutgers is going to have to mix it up and try and find something to move the ball. I mean, maybe they didn't show a lot against Temple because they want to, do more different things, to, move the ball against Iowa. I mean, maybe that was, the whole idea, for their, strategy. But yeah, Rutgers are going to have to try something different to be able to score against this Iowa defense, which is, really good.
yeah, I think some context to that. They played 3 games. One was against an FCS team. One was against Nevada, who lost to an FCS team last week, and the other was their big rivalry game, Iowa State, which they lost in a
10-7.
barn burner, 10-7. So they came into the league, or they came into the season with a highly touted defense, but I don't know. I think it's a small sample size at the moment, but they are probably better. One of the better defenses we'll face all year.
They're actually my college fantasy defense. So.
Oh, nice.
We know who you're rooting for this week.
Yeah. I don't really care about that. It's fun. I don't care.
Yeah, it's pretty cool though. But yeah, it's such a weird team. I mean, if you look at the PFF grades alone too, like there's 80 rushing defense, 80 something coverage, 80 overall defense. They're just really good on defense. Like I don't know how this team's going to score, but maybe you get some guys back. Maybe you get a Noah Vedral back, who Shiano said is now game time decision, which is a little bit different than. Oh, jeez, there's my camera phone. That just flashed me now. Anyway, yeah. Noah Vedral might be back. He's a game-time decision. Gavin Wimsatt will be a game-time decision. Maybe we'll see a crazier quarterback roulette than we've seen week 1 and week 2. And then there's running back roulette, which might feature Aaron Young coming back potentially. Obviously, Shadi Salam's kind of established himself as a role, in a new role. Sam Brown's getting carries, like Kyle Nangai. So, I mean, that's going to be interesting, too. You could throw a couple different options there. And who's the other guy? Matt Limo, who obviously they can use because they're using Mike Higgins, a true freshman. In a typical season, that guy's, no offense to him, he's just probably not playing.
Sure.
And now he's got to play 10 to 15 snaps a game.
I'm glad you brought him up too because if Alimo's able to come back, maybe that gives more wiggle room to play Langan at quarterback. So, I mean, who knows? That could be a possibility too.
That's the thinking he was thinking about. It's just Shiano wants him back, then we can move Johnny back to quarterback. Then we can run it 90% of first downs.
There you go.
I imagine that this was always if the staff knew that Vedral was going to miss time early in the year, this was probably the game that they were targeting for him to come back because this is probably the game that they would begin to actually need him, assuming we got past Boston College. So I think him changing the verbiage on, he's week to week to he's a game time decision might be an indicator that he actually might play. That being said, I think while Noah has a very hard ceiling, I think he'd execute the offense better than we've seen so far from the two young quarterbacks. Because this offensive line, even though it underperformed this past week, it is better than what we had last year and the year before. Not that it's a huge upgrade, but it is an upgrade.
Yeah, that's my other question. If he is back, like, the guy's last snap was what, December? Is he going to be a little bit of rust as well? Like, or do you just kind of just pick it right back up and you're like, oh, I'm back?
Yeah. Well, it's not only that. He hasn't been able to practice, so outside of game reps, practice reps are important too. He hasn't been getting any of those. From what I understand, at least. I haven't been at practice, but if he's been out, he's been out.
Yeah, so I mean, it's an interesting scenario. Does he, like you said, does he bring the offense make it better? Yeah, probably. But how much is the real question? Because it's still, at the end of the day, still some questionable play calling. They are still throwing these passes behind the line of scrimmage, and honestly, at the end of the day, I don't even know if these receivers are really getting that much open or that much separation, I should say. And that's a concern as well. That's been a concern at Rutgers for, I don't even know, how many years has it been since we've seen a receiver that can get open consistently?
Leonte Carew, probably.
Maybe Leonte Carew, probably.
Yeah. That's it's quite some time. That's what, 10-year gap, if not more.
Yeah, but
I thought the receivers didn't get any. I thought the receivers didn't get any separation really in the Temple game.
I don't buy that it has to purely be on the receivers too, because there's plenty of shitty offenses, especially in the FCS, who run a scheme that naturally gets guys open, and that's based mainly on like unpredictability and just like misdirection. Like you run a play action pass, you have an extra lineman to one side, and you throw the other side. Like this is not super complicated. There's ways to get guys open without them being like 4-3 burners, and I feel like that's a really cheap excuse that some people parrot, which isn't true. Like you don't need an elite athlete to be a good receiver and to get open. There's plenty of receivers in the NFL who run 4.6s. Like Michael Thomas, he gets open all the fucking time. He ran like a 4.67 at the fucking combine. You don't need elite speed to get open. So I really cringe every time somebody's like, well, what are you supposed to do when your receivers aren't like super fast? It's like, well, be crafty. You don't need to be the fastest guy on the field to get open. Yeah. But
look at Sanu. Sanu was not fast by any means.
No, but he's always open.
Yeah. It's tough. I'm not saying it's just the receiver's fault, though. There's a combination of things, whether it's play calling, the left tackle issue that they keep rotating in guys. Willie Tyler looked like hot garbage this past weekend.
Yeah.
Kamar Razori isn't like a great option either. They need to find something going on there, and Greg kind of hinted at that. I actually asked him previewing the Temple game about the O-line. He said he wants to rotate into tackles as well, but, I mean, they're just not there yet. They got to figure out something there, whether it's DiRenzo at left tackle, which I don't think you move him because he's been pretty solid so far. And he's probably the only guard you can pull because I can't see you pulling Dunlap that much, at least. He's just too big of a human being. Maybe Holland Pierce at left tackle and then put in a new right tackle. CJ Hansen's looked good in limited snaps. The freshmen I don't think are anywhere there yet. So don't even ask about that. I just don't know what you do. You got to fix this line too as well. Because they did this, you should not be getting pushed by like a Temple defensive line like that.
Yep. Yeah, in fairness, their strength was on the edges and their linebacker play, and they were able to get a handful of sacks on us on Saturday. So we did kind of know that was a strength of the team, but still, it is a group of 5 good offensive line. It's not necessarily like a Michigan or Ohio State offensive line. So
it's tough.
But we kind of ran the gamut here on stuff from Saturday. Were there any other things you guys wanted to bring up before we hopped off here today?
Not that I can really think of. I mean, like I said, this game's going to be a little weird this weekend. Night game, so you have the atmosphere on your side. I don't know if it'll be a sellout, but I think you'll probably get 48 to 50 around there. Actual attendance, it's probably going to be announced over 50 because that's just what stadiums do at this point. I don't know why, but I think it should be a weird game. Like this offense, if it comes to show up and shows up to play, they might they might end up scoring like 14-21.
Yeah.
If they don't, then it could be an ugly night for Rutgers. This defense is pretty good at Iowa. I'm kind of indifferent. I'm still thinking back and forth on my prediction. I know obviously we put them in the war room each week, but I really don't know where this one's going because it's a shitty offense versus good defense, a shitty offense versus a good defense. So someone's going to have to cave.
This is their first road game of the year. They've played 3 games at home. They had a long game on Saturday. They'll probably be pretty worn out. I mean, they have a week to recover, but they already lose some time there. Rutgers is going to be playing, like Shiano had mentioned this last week, that, we know what kind of environment these guys are going to see this weekend, but none of our guys have really experienced this. Like, they saw it from the first time around. So does the team get electrified and play like they got a 12th man on the field because of how crazy the environment is? Or do they get way too excited and miss tackles and commit dumb penalties like we did the past couple games? Like, how many like hit out of bounds penalties did we get called on us this season already? Like 3 or 4? 2 in the last game.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's all about how our team handles the crowd and how Iowa handles the crowd. Now, Iowa could shrink in that moment. Who knows? But I think the crowd will play a factor.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, one thing to kind of mention too, Rutgers hasn't won a Big Ten home game in a couple of years. So, I mean, who knows if that plays a factor too? But yeah, I mean, like you said, Iowa's first road game of the season for them. Obviously, Rutgers already had a home game. I know it was Wagner. Completely did different story. But I think you'll see a good crowd for Rutgers. I mean, they showed up. A lot of guys showed up in Philly this past weekend. So I think they're excited for the game. I think they're going to be excited. I think there's going to be a Ferris wheel, right, for the boardwalk thing. So, maybe we'll have to take a ride on the Ferris wheel.
you do that. I'll go from the press box. You go from the Ferris wheel and see if you get a better view.
I'll wave to you from the press box. How about that? I'll wave to you. I'll wave to you from the Ferris wheel.
There you go. Oh, jeez. Yeah. Now going back to this Iowa team, I don't know. Like Spencer Petras doesn't look like an awful. I mean, obviously this year's a little different, but going back to like some of his other games, he doesn't look awful. He's not gonna torch you for 300 or anything like that, but he could easily throw like a 230, 240 passing yard game, and it's not like he's afraid to chuck the ball. He's done it.
Yeah, we'll see. We will have a preview episode later this week to preview Iowa. Trying to line up a guest right now, but we will get really in depth into that game. But again, we're 3-0. There's only and we're being critical because we know we can be better, guys. But we are still 3-0. Chiano said it's better to teach lessons with a W in the column than with an L in the column. So we will talk more later this week. But this has been another episode of the Night Report podcast. Signing off.